I often hear aspiring homesteaders ask, "How do you pay for all of this? It's so expensive. I could never afford to do that." There's some truth in those statements. Raising livestock can be expensive. But if you get creative and stick with your plan, you can make some adjustments in what you're already doing that will make a big financial difference. Before we get started on today's topic, I want to read a review from Erica Millard titled Tons of Practical Tips. Erica writes, "So many practical tips throughout these episodes. I love the suggestion to start with thinking through what your family eats and raising animals that produce those items. Genius. This show is simple and fun to listen to while so practical." Thanks, Erica. If you'd like to leave a review on Apple Podcasts, scroll down to Ratings and Reviews, click on the purple words, Write a Review, then give me stars and tell me what you think. I'd love to hear from you, and you might just hear me share your review on the podcast. Hey friends, welcome to the Get Goatwise podcast. I'm Millie Bradshaw, animal scientist, cattle girl turned goat rancher, co-owner of Dry Creek Livestock, and simple living enthusiast. Here we'll talk about raising goats, chickens, and other homestead livestock, how to create sustainable animal management systems that actually work, and a bit of off-grid life with kids and livestock. If you're ready to take control of your food supply, raise livestock with confidence, and provide your family with the most nourishing meat, eggs, and dairy available, you're in the right place. Kick off your muck boots, pour a cup of coffee, and let's talk livestock. Hey friend, today I'm going to share a strategy that we have been using for years to cover the costs of raising livestock for food, and even making a little money to put back into the homestead. First of all, keep in mind the value of what you're raising and not just the costs compared to commercially produced meat, eggs, and dairy. You know exactly what the animals have been fed, what they've been injected with, how they've been treated, and how they are harvested. There's value in that. Odds are, even as a beginner, you're producing a healthier, more nutritious product than what can be bought at the grocery store. When you compare the cost of raising your own food, be fair about it, and don't forget how valuable those things are, even if you can't put a number on them. Eating the highest quality food available will help keep you and your family healthy, and I don't think you can put a dollar amount on your health. But you could account for the money you've saved by not visiting the doctor's office because you're no longer sick all the time. I'm going to share a very basic overview of how I get rough numbers to help make decisions on selling or trading livestock. The actual numbers will vary based on your location and the current market, so this is not meant to be a comprehensive financial analysis, just examples, and you'll need to use your own costs in your area. And here's the disclaimer: I'm not an accountant, and this is not professional financial advice. So how do we do this? The basic idea is to stick with your livestock plan that we set up in episode 2. Start with your one thing and then expand it to raise more than your family needs. You can then sell or trade the extra to get the other things you need or to cover the expenses on the portion your family consumes. Let's look at meat birds, for example. Costs would be housing and equipment, chicks, feed, and labor for their daily care and harvesting. We built 6 by 8 foot chicken tractors, which can hold 25 meat birds. When we built them, the cost was $200. I expect those to hold up for 8 years, so the cost per year is $25. Chicks are about $2.50 each, depending on where you buy, so that's $62.50 for 25 birds. Feeders and waterers for the brooder are $15 and for the tractor $35, and they should hold up for 5 years if we take good care of them, so that's $10 per year. It takes about 350 pounds of feed to raise 25 Cornish cross birds to 8 to 10 weeks of age, at which time they would produce a 5 to 7 pound dressed bird ready to cook. Feed costs $22 per 50-pound bag, so that's $154 for feed. At this point, for housing, equipment, chicks, and feed, your costs are $251.50 or $10.06 per bird. I add in $5 per bird for daily care and processing. We butcher our own, and that pays for the labor and processing equipment. So your total cost per chicken is $15.06. The family plans to eat chicken twice a month, so that's about 1 full tractor of chickens. After the first batch of chickens, you could do another run of 25. Batches of chickens can overlap because they spend a few weeks in the brooder before they go out to the chicken tractor. So adding on each batch of chicks would only add about 6 weeks of time invested. Since the tractor and equipment for the year was covered in the first batch, your cost on additional chickens is $13.66. Do one extra run of chickens, sell them for $29 each, and you've just paid for a year's worth of chicken for your family. In today's market, you could easily charge much more selling to people like you who are very conscientious about food quality and source. Do a third batch of chickens, and you will make about $385, which you can then use to buy a pig from a local farmer or fellow homesteader to fill your freezer. Of course, this is a very simple example that doesn't account for death loss, brooder lamp expense, or the learning curve, but I think you get the idea. Now let's look at laying hens. Your family eats 2 dozen eggs per week. 6 hens with average egg production will lay 2 dozen eggs per week. The coop and equipment varies widely, but you can do it scrappy. Let's talk about this for a second. If you're just getting started, there's no need to get Instagram worthy with your coop. I promise the chickens will poop on the cute curtains and decorations anyway. Do something that is safe and works and get started. We did ours on a budget, so we used an old 2-place horse trailer, installed nesting boxes, a feeder and waterer, and then built a run that sits up against the back of the trailer so the chickens can go outside and still be safe. The whole thing is mobile, and the chickens can be moved onto fresh ground regularly. It was meant to be a short-term arrangement, but 10 years later we're still using the chicken trailer. Is it ugly? Yes. Does it work? Yes. Would my husband be horrified if I posted pictures of it on Instagram? Absolutely. I do want to upgrade someday, but it's not a priority. The trailer keeps them safe at night, and we've not had any predator issues. If you do it right, selling eggs may pay for the fancy coop upgrade later. Now take your costs for the coop and equipment and divide that by 5 to 10 years, however long you'd like to take to pay off that investment. In our case, we were about $150 into the chicken trailer and run, nesting boxes, feeder, and waterer. Over 5 years, that's $30 per year. Not bad. If you spend $500 on your coop and equipment, you'll be looking at $100 per year. Since it's your homestead, you get to decide what works best for you, but we'll use my expense for the rest of the example. Layer chicks cost around $4 each. This can vary a lot depending on the breeds you choose. 6 chicks is $24. Expect each hen to eat 1.5 pounds per week. 6 hens times the 1.5 pounds times 52 weeks is 468 pounds of feed. Layer feed from our feed store is $17 for 50 pounds, so that's about $160. Now, those chicks aren't going to lay until they are 4 to 6 months old, but that expense is offset because they usually lay through their first winter instead of molting. Again, for labor, I add in $5 per bird per year, $30. Layer chores are easy, kid-friendly, and in the future we'll talk about that more. If you choose to use heat lamps in the winter, which I do not recommend, those are a big expense and you'd need to include it. Total expenses in my example are $244 per year for 2 dozen eggs per week, so that's $2.35 per dozen. If you double your number of hens to sell eggs, the cost is $458. Remember, the equipment is only included once, and the expense per dozen drops to $2.20. Sell 2 dozen eggs per week at $5 per dozen, and that's $520, which pays for all the eggs produced with an extra $62 to save toward the chicken mansion. The same process can be used for almost any livestock production. You can do this easily with pigs, and you have some extra bargaining power. In our area, I need to sell 4 finished pigs to pay the total cost, including processing, for the 2 that we raise for our own use. If you really want beef, pigs are a great trade. Start talking with a local rancher about trading fed pigs for a fed steer. It's a big trade, and make sure to account for processing costs, but it's a great way to get a freezer full of beef without the long-term investment of raising your own. I hope this has given you some ideas to help you reach your homestead livestock goals. The best place to start is to figure out your actual or projected expenses on a really basic level, so that you know roughly how much you are putting into your livestock. Then, you can figure out what you'd need to charge to make it profitable. When you reach that goal of raising farm-fresh food and feeding your family and other families without emptying the bank account, You're going to be so excited, and I want to hear about it. Hey there. Thanks for listening today. I'm so glad you're here. If this episode helped you or encouraged you in some way, share the link with your homesteading friends. And if you really want to help me out, click on over to Apple Podcasts and leave a rating and a review. You can connect with me on Instagram or email, linked in the show notes. And meet me back here soon for more Get Goat Wise.